Gentlemen, we've got to start off with this, dramatic match between Atletico Madrid and Barcelona in the Copa del Rey. It was madness, David. It was madness.
Midweek madness. It was, honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. Really great game. And I think it showcased very well where both sides are at, from an attacking point of view. And I mean, Barcelona had the majority of possession. I think it was like 60 plus. Atleti were happy with their 30. And even though, it's funny, you look at the stats of that game and you'll think, Atleti being Atleti, they must just, put every man behind the ball. I just didn't really think it was like that. They were just happy to let Barcelona have the ball. And Atleti right now, when they counter-attack, such a threat. With all the options that they have, whether pushing 5 men on or whether it even is just 2, and it's Julian Alvarez and Griezmann. We'll get to Julian in a little bit in a very short time. But really exciting from both sides, and it was a really great contest. No caginess, both teams going for it, plenty of chances on each side. I think Barcelona, was like 16 shots. Atleti had 10 as well. Brilliant game, really was.
I think this is the thing that they sort of underlined, as you say, David, despite being so different, they are the 2 most exciting sides to watch in La Liga by a long way, and maybe the 2 most exciting sides to watch in Europe at the moment. As you say, Barcelona played so much great football, as they have done all season. But yes, they will give you chances on the counter-attack, mainly because they play so high. And it's just that, I guess, holy communion of Barcelona and their identity and Hansi Flick and his identity is always going to create chances. But I think Atletico are in a perfect place to take advantage of that, because they took advantage of that at the beginning. Now, once they were 4-2 down, because they were 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes, then they go 4-2 down. Lewandowski has a brilliant chance to make it 5-2 after a cross from Rafinha, who's, again, excellent. And when he doesn't take that, Atleti get a little sniff. And they are so good at finishing games. So they get a goal from Llorente, not just to get themselves back into it, but Alexander Sorloth, who people looked at him at the start of the season, and I guess we can link it to Alvarez, who had quite a slow start to the season as well. Sorloth had that sort of settling in period. And since he's got a role in the team, which is not always starter, he's become so useful for them. Now, we know Sorloth can score goals in La Liga. Barcelona must be sick of the sight of him. He scores in the 93rd minute to equalise in this game. If you go back to the Ligue game in December, the last game before Christmas, he scores a 96th minute winner. Now, this all fits into Atletico and what they can do this season. That's the 15th goal or 16th goal, I think it is, that they've scored this season, 90th minute or later. And their ability to shape matches, forgetting everything that went before. So the fact they went 4-2 down and lost a 2-0 lead, they can completely compartmentalise that and just get on with it and get back into the game. These are blows that flatten other teams, most other teams, but they always find a way to deal with the situation. You look at that League game back in December, and they were battered for a lot of that, actually. You look at the game against, we've talked about it before this season, against PSG in the Champions League away. They're battered for all of that, really. And then they go and win it with the last kick of the entire game. And I think you've sort of got, we think of Diego Simeone's sides as being really defensive, as David was saying. But actually, I think maybe people are starting to realise, or they should be starting to realise if they're watching the games, that it's actually more about that warrior spirit. It's about not giving in no matter what happens. And now, as well as having that, they've got the players to freshen it up off the bench, and the right players to freshen it up off the bench. They're not reliant on one player, are they?
They've used Simeone's used the bench so well this season, and he's been able to do that because he's been given a better squad. I think there's past about 2 or 3 years now where they've been working with scraps. They haven't done the required business in the window, and they've been relying upon Diego Simeone's brilliant coaching to extract more from a very average to medium, decent level group of players. But now he's got added quality they've bought properly, and so they are able to do more in games. They are able to attack a different way. And if they are behind in games, it's not a case of grinding it out. It's more, we now have the quality to carve something out and potentially win this game and to do something here. They're not really fazed by any situation that they are in. Most teams down 4-2 to Barcelona would have downed tools and said, right, okay, we'll make a bit of a fight of it, but we don't see ourselves completely getting level here. Atleti didn't really seem to go through that at any point. In fact, I think Simeone made some changes. Atleti started to look really, really good, and then Barcelona scored, even though Atleti were looking better, and then Atleti really settled into the system what they had, and started to, really pepper Barcelona, and especially on the break. They're just so dangerous at the moment, Atleti on the break. And like I say, it doesn't matter if they're pushing 5 or 6 up or 2. The second goal for Atleti was fantastic, Griezmann's goal. If you look at it, Barcelona are playing that typical high line. They over-egg it a little bit in midfield. There's a little bit of confusion in midfield. And Julian Alvarez comes off his own penalty area, nips in, intercepts, and then carries the ball through 2 or 3 players into a wide area and then slings a wonderful ball to Griezmann. It could only been put in one place, and he put it exactly there, and Griezmann scores. And that just kind of shows how Atleti are playing right now, but also how Julian Alvarez is playing right now.
I know you've been itching to talk about Julian Alvarez, so let's jump the gun and let's talk about him. He left City. Well, there are question marks when you leave City, not least for the amount of money that he left to go to Atletico Madrid with. Have those question marks been answered, not least in this particular semi-final in the Copa del Rey, Andy?
Yeah, and I think this has been coming for a while. He had a difficult start because we know he played so much football last season. And, well, last season hasn't ended for him, I suppose, really, when you look at him going off to the Copa America. A lot of people wondering if that factored into City's decision to sell him. And he looked weary at the start of the season. But somehow he's found a way to consistently affect games in the last couple of months. He's been brilliant in the last couple of months. And, if we were looking at him, David, as like eventually the guy who takes over from Griezmann, like it's always been Griezmann's team under Simeone, apart from that short break when he was at Barcelona. They've got to look past that at some point, and it was obviously going to take a lot of money to replace him. But already we've got signs, and you talked about how he created that goal for Griezmann, who they're not as reliant on anymore for the first time in a really long time.
It was usually roles reversed. It was usually Griezmann having to intercept and then try and find some space and beat a few players and then laying on a brilliant pass. He was the only person who was capable of that. Now they have Alvarez as well, who I think at City was looked down upon a little bit and not perhaps fully utilised to what he can do in the game. And that second goal, again, I need people to watch this, implore people to watch this goal because I just loved how it was put together. It showed his quality, his awareness, his intelligence as a player. And I think at City, some people just saw him as somebody who could come in and just work hard and run about around the front. But he's got so much more about him in terms of his mobility, in terms of his intelligence as well.
But the work rate's exceptional, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And that comes into its own Atletico. It's maybe something that is not seen as a hallmark of Manchester City, although I think you can see by how weary Manchester City are this season that they've worked incredibly hard in recent years, and maybe that's catching up with them a little bit. But of course, there are different elements of your footballing personality that will come to the fore if you play for City or Atletico. It's like Rodri, for example, had a good season at Atletico when he was there, but he was always going to be more valuable for Manchester City. And I kind of feel, because possession is more valued there, basically, and that is what he's best at, really. Whereas I think it's the opposite with Alvarez, really. That work rate, the amount that he puts in, and if we're talking about eventually replacing Griezmann, you need a superhuman work ethic, really, and to cover a ridiculous amount of ground. And so I think that aspect of him is far more useful to Atletico than it was to Manchester City.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, Rodri was a funny one, because and it just shows how things have flipped at Atleti. Rodri actually, before he left Atleti, I think he wanted to leave anywhere Man City came in. He was like, this is a great move for me. He actually went to Simeone and said, just out of interest, is the football going to change up here? Because he really didn't, and it's literally what Andy's just said. He said to Simeone, "Look, is the football going to change? Because I feel I can do more. I'm playing a bit within myself here." And he was fantastic and he was brilliant. But he was like, "I want to do more. Can I do more? Can we do more as a team?" And Simeone said, "No, I don't think it is." And I think it was partly as a result of just what I've touched on, the transfer business and the sort of players who are coming in. Fast forward to now, this Atleti team is really exciting. Lots of different parts. Interesting. Samuel Lino's come through really well. Barrios has come around. Griezmann's obviously as good as he is. The defence is looking a lot better as well. And Koke has even been revitalised as well after a few lean years. So they're playing a different style now, a different approach, and it is more exciting as a player in that team. So Alvarez, not only is he working, in his own half, helping defend, but he's also doing things in attack as well. What Griezmann learned, and that Griezmann role is very defined to him. Not many players could do that, and they really couldn't, and that's why Atleti brought him back.
But that scoreline, 4-4 in the semi-final of the Copa del Rey, does that not suggest that, as exciting as these two teams are, not least when they play each other, that there are some problems? They're not Real Madrid, are they?
No, I think that's the interesting thing. If you look at the second Copa del Rey semi this week, Real Madrid go to Real Sociedad, who are a good team, even if they've underachieved a little bit in La Liga this season. It's a hot atmosphere at the Real Arena now, since, as we've said before, since they brought the stands in. It's a stadium at which Real Madrid are absolutely hated. So they get a proper going over there, and they dig in and get a 1-0. Despite the fact they're missing a couple of players. They've got no Mbappe because he had a wisdom tooth out this week and he wasn't in the squad. And this, to me, underlines why Real Madrid have to be the favourites to win La Liga. Because if you look at all the personnel problems they've had this season, you would be amazed, I think, if you look down like the amount of games that some of those players have missed. You look at Camavinga's only started like 8 or 9 league games, for example. But they've managed to get through it somehow. And they always find a way to get through it. And there were some difficult moments in that, but they were so effective as a team in this Real Madrid that Lunin had to make some good saves, but he didn't need to have the game of his life, did he?
No, I don't think it was backs to the wall sort of stuff for them at all. And what you'd say about Real Madrid is they're very savvy. And also, if Real Madrid don't punish you in the first half of a game, they are really going to come for you in the second half. And having that as a team in the dressing room is always a bit of a daunting thing. And we've seen it a lot in the Champions League, where teams have battered them, had their chances, not taken them, and you must get to that dressing room really demoralised and going, oh, we've had 4 good chances there, we haven't taken one of them. Yeah. And it's the second half against Real Madrid. They're going to come at you with their collective quality and also with their individual quality. They've got different ways to beat you. And I completely concur with Andy about them being favourites for this.
Yeah, if Real Madrid are favourites for La Liga, what happens when the favourites for La Liga meet one of these two exciting teams in the Copa del Rey? What gives then? Who's likely to benefit most from that?
Well, look, don't we all want a Madrid final? I mean, come on. Yeah. There's history there, isn't there? If we think back to what was one of the key moments in Simeone's reign, I mean, of course, the first trophy he won was the Europa League, but the bit where they win in 2013, when they go to the Bernabeu and win the Copa del Rey final, and Mourinho loses his shit, Cristiano Ronaldo loses his shit and gets sent off in extra time. All that stuff is the moment where Atletico get under the skin of Real Madrid. And since then, what was a little bit of a rivalry, because we happen to live down the road from each other, has become a proper, all-consuming rivalry since, in the decade since.
I think it's far more engrossing than the classical rivalry. Which I think's quite placid at the moment. I don't know, there's no spark there, whereas I think if Atletico...
Real Madrid don't turn up for it at the moment, do they?
So Atletico and Real Madrid, that's what you want, basically, as a headline act.